Were there certain things that your parents really made sure to pass on to you from their culture while you were growing up?
Yeah, definitely the language. I mean,
Yeah.
I can probably think of maybe one or two conversations in my entire lifetime I had with my father in English. You
Wow,
know,
really?
like we've like really like I came home and it was just Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate my parents so much for that, because it's like, you know, now I get to pass this tongue on and keep, and it's so important in terms of connecting with my culture again, and that need that I found later on to connect with it. You know, it's been something I was really grateful that they ingrained in me.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, because I've seen both sides where some parents intentionally don't actually teach their kids the language because they want them to assimilate even more. But I feel like it's almost a disservice, and it's, you know, it's harder for like so if you do want to go back to Colombia, like you wouldn't be able to speak the language, you know, and there's that disconnect. But so I think that's great that they taught that to you. And Spanish is something I've always wanted to learn. Jeez, one of these days I will do it. But that's amazing though, because I do think, you know, knowing the language is so important to connecting with the culture.
And you know, like you think about like a grandparent who like, especially my grandparents who are still in Colombia and haven't learned any English.
Right.
It's like like I couldn't imagine, and I'm sure other, you know, immigrant kids feel this way too, that they can't communicate with some of their family members the way they want to, because they just don't know the tongue. And I'm glad I have that, you know, blessing.
That's true. Yeah, another girl we interviewed kind of mentioned the same thing, that like she wouldn't be able to talk to her grandma, and I just never thought of it from that perspective, because even though our parents have accents, it's not, you know, same language. So I was like, wow, the older generation, you would not be able to, and it's just it just makes it, you can just connect with them a lot quicker. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of different, but just having a thought about how Alyssa was saying that she wishes she knew Spanish. Yeah, I feel the same way, just from growing up in Miami, and Spanish is such an important language there. I've always felt like that left a little bit of a disconnect for me from my own hometown. It's because I didn't know Spanish. I always felt like I don't fully belong in the place where I actually grew up, because there's like a whole population that doesn't speak English that well that I can't even connect to in where I grew up. So it's kind of a different way of looking at it, but
And I feel like when you can speak somebody's language, there's this, I mentioned this in another interview, but there's this YouTuber guy we watch white guy who speaks Chinese. And
I've seen
Jaume,
this
do you know Jaume? Okay.
It's wild.
He's crazy, right? He speaks a ton of languages now, but he's mainly known for speaking Chinese. But like, and then you just see their face, like when you know, he acts like he doesn't know the language, and immediately, like, you see they're like, oh, and they like that, like, oh yeah, we have like respect for you. I don't know, it's just, I can't describe it, but you can see in their eyes how they just like,
it's respect, but it's also like, oh, I'm like, you see like the personality come through more, you know? It's like part of that guard where it's like, I'm speaking this language I'm unfamiliar with. I'm talking to this person who's, and you know, it's finding common ground in some ways. It's really, whenever I see those videos, I'm always like, I just see how they light up, and I'm like, oh, that's
it's
so awesome.
crazy.
Yeah.